Welcome to Sid Cordell from the Christian People's Alliance. We're going to put him to the test today. We're going to start off with a rather unusual story. And I'm going to read most of this because I want to get exactly right, because when I first read it and came across this, I thought, no, not surely in GB, but yes. It's about Sarah, a teacher for many years. Then one pupil asked what she thought about abortion. Sarah answered honestly, "I am a faithful Roman Catholic and I am against it." She didn't preach, she didn't push. She told her pupils it was okay to disagree with her, that respectful disagreement is part of a free society. Well, what happened next? Hours later, she was summoned to the headmaster's office. No hearing, no right of reply, no chance to give her account. The head teacher wouldn't even see her. She was told only that she had talked about religion and abortion, and that the head teacher is having nothing to do with it. Trial by jury?
Is completely wrong, because basically what the head teacher is saying is that we have a policy in this school of supporting abortion, and anyone who opposes our policy of supporting abortion cannot continue as a teacher in this school. That's basically what the head teacher is saying. But that's not education, because you see, that's indoctrination. Because if you say, well, this is our school's policy and this is what must be taught, anything taught against the school's policy warrants dismissal. I mean, it ceases to be education. And education is about teaching children different points of view. And it's absolutely right that children should be taught that some people support abortion and some people oppose abortion. And the reason people support abortion is because they want to have the right to be able to kill an unborn baby in the early years of pregnancy if they don't want the child. So they want to be able to have sex, and if the contraception doesn't work for some reason, then they want to be able to dispose of the baby if they don't want a baby. That's what those who support abortion believe. And they use slogans like "a woman's right to choose" and my body, my choice. Now, children need to be taught that, but they also need to be taught that other people believe that it's wrong under any circumstances, to kill a baby. They believe a woman's got a right to choose whether to have sex with a man, but if she chooses to have sex with a man, she can't then choose to kill the baby that may result, because that's a life. And the slogan "my body, my choice" isn't correct in the belief of those that oppose abortion, because they say that the baby has a different DNA from the mother. So it's not her body, it's another life inside her which has a right to live. Now, that's telling children different points of view, and that is correct education. And this case, I believe, is being taken up by Alliance Defending Freedom, but it's been taken up, I think, by an American legal organization. And they will certainly go to court, and I'm sure that they will win in court, because what the head teacher has done is totally wrong, totally wrong.
The last line in this I will also read. In a single afternoon, a blameless teacher's career was destroyed because of her faith. That's illegal, Sid, apart from anything else. You're supposed to have freedom of worship, freedom of faith. It goes against every human and godly law all at the same time. We move on. Well, for a change, we will move to sport. A lot of it's going on, of course, and we've not even started the season properly, footy-wise. But Infantino is raising his delicate head, and it's not going to go away. Now, we mentioned it over the last week or so, but further revelations have come out now. The lady, apparently, as part of this, the Latin lover bit, £150,000. It's gone up from 100,000. And it was very carefully done. So it went through the books as a dodge, it appears, allegedly, because she was treated to MBA courses. She was treated to a £25,000 pay rise, being under the employ of FIFA, and all sorts of things, all sorts of goodies that have been hidden. And my question is today, statement, too much money in sport, said too much corruption. Corruption is driven by money.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think there is corruption at the top of FIFA, but there was major problems with Sepp Blatter, who was his predecessor. So yeah, absolutely, there have been problems at the top of FIFA. But Infantino's mistakes are firstly to be too close to Donald Trump. I mean, it's fair enough to be friendly with Donald Trump and to allow him to take a part in making the presentations and so on and so forth, because he was president of the country where the World Cup was hosted. But to rescind a red card for the United States in circumstances where it wouldn't be rescinded for any other country was wrong, absolutely wrong. And he's just been a bit, giving him this FIFA Peace Prize, which we've never heard of before. Suddenly, Donald Trump gets a FIFA Peace Prize. I mean, that also seems very wrong. And some of it is just the left hating the fact that he was too close to Donald Trump. But the other thing which he's done wrong is to make announcements without proper consultation. And this is where UEFA, the European governing body, comes in, because they're saying quite rightly, before any announcement was made about bringing in private enterprise into world soccer, we should have been consulted and we should have had a chance to express our opinions. And so should all the other continental governing bodies. And that's absolutely right. Of course, it's right. I mean, you can't just make announcements and say, "Oh, we're bringing in private money and we're going to sell off parts of the World Cup," without any consultation. I mean, that was a major error on his part, frankly. But the other thing which you mentioned about these past scandals and money being given to pay off people, what annoys me about that is that it's only brought up when they actually want to get rid of somebody. So it goes on, behind the scenes. But if they like the person, then it's just hushed up and kept quiet and nothing's ever said. But when they want to get rid of somebody, all of a sudden, there's a scandal that we've suddenly discovered. Nonsense, I haven't suddenly discovered. It's been there for a long time.
Yeah, we must ask Nigel Farage about that. But
Yes.
we stray. We'll no doubt go back to that subject. But before we leave the sporty section, LIV Golf. Now, that's from Saudi Arabia. And the idea was to make golf more sexy. So we pay a lot of money for the PGA in America, basically, to come over and play in all parts of the world. And the prize money is significant. It's mega. And when I say sex up the situation, I'll say it in conjunction with cricket. More in a second about that. But what happens in this golf tournament is that you don't tee off and then wait in a gentlemanly manner for the next person to come on the tee when you've cleared the hole. And the course gets completed 18 holes. Now what happens, to make it great for the television camera, small time slot, more people, everything's based on television. The whole field starts off. They might start somebody on T1. At the same time, they start on T3, T5, T7, and so on. So everybody starts at the same time. Wow, there's an innovation. And lots of other bizarre things come about the result and team playing. Very complicated, but it seems to have got somewhere because golfers like it. Do the public like it? Is it going to last? Well, who knows? And I mentioned the cricket. There's a beast called the 100, Sid. And I watched that. And what they've decided to do is to get families in, get a lot of money, and I'm talking millions of pounds. But you look at what is happening there. Yes, it's a good evening out. If you want a full day, you can watch the ladies play in the afternoon. Then the men come on at night. And it's a good, jolly crowd. And it's a tight game, nearly always. But there's only 8 teams in it. So that's not very good. And my question is, will it last? Because if you think about it, we've already got short white ball cricket. It's called the T20. Now, why didn't they develop that and make that more family, more concentrated? It's only 20 balls more. But no, the money men came along. We've got to do it their way. I'm not so sure it's going to last.
No, I think you're probably right. But in general, I think the idea that there can't be innovation is obviously wrong. I mean, it's right that there is some innovation. It's right there's some change and different things are tried. And it wasn't long ago that they first introduced T20 cricket. And yeah, I mean, having 120 balls, is obviously not an awful lot different from having 100 balls. And when the 100 was first brought in, I thought, well, that's crazy. We've got 120. We don't need another format. But like you say, they're just introducing it to try and make money. And yeah, I don't think it'll catch on in international cricket. It has the T20 has caught on in international cricket and it's become very popular. Of course, it's become very popular in India, which is where the whole thing started off. But yeah, I mean, I've got no problem with innovation. I've got no problem with innovation in golf. I mean, if they're going to try and, have a lot more golfers, they have 9 groups all starting off at the same time at different places on the golf course, then great, let's try it. It's not a problem, and it may well make the golf a lot more exciting, rather than it being strung out over a very long period of time. And it may well make it more exciting for television viewers because you've got more happening really from the beginning of the tournament rather than just one person starting and at the moment nothing much is happening. And it's a long time between the first player teeing off and the final player teeing off. In many cases, it can be 8 or 9 hours in difference. And I think to try an innovation is a good thing. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't.
Next, as they say. Oh, before we leave sport, we've got to mention the Commonwealth Games. If you blinked, you probably missed it. They've done it on the cheap, 100 million. Well, goodness me, that's better than nearly a billion that they were quoting at one stage. But it's not got the same cachet as it used to have, Sid, has it?
Well, I must admit, I watched very little of the Commonwealth Games because I didn't even work out what channel it was on. I mean, I don't know who had the television rights, so I didn't actually watch any of it live. And the only bits I saw was summaries on YouTube, which looked quite interesting. But yeah, it wasn't this year. I think what's happening is that some of the left-wing media have decided they no longer want to support the Commonwealth Games. By the way, the very fact of the existence of the Commonwealth goes against all the left-wing agenda because their agenda is that the British Empire was a terrible empire. I mean, there's one lady who's actually said it's the worst uh, empire we've ever had in the history of the world, which means it was worse than Stalin and worse than Hitler, the British Empire, which is complete and utter nonsense. But that's what the left wing are trying to say. And they're also saying that the British Empire was responsible for all the slavery in the world, which is also completely untrue. Well, that's what they want to try and make out, and that we're now got to pay reparations for all the terrible British slavery that went on in the world. Um, but the existence of the Commonwealth goes against that agenda. Because the fact is, for instance, when the Soviet Union collapsed, every country that was part of the Warsaw Pact, Poland, Czechoslovakia, which is now split into two, Yugoslavia, which is split up into several different groups, and Romania and Bulgaria, all of them were part of the Warsaw Pact. When the Soviet Union collapsed, they also immediately got their complete independence from Russia. And there's many of the Russian Federation, I mean Kazakhstan and Belarus and Ukraine indeed, that all immediately got their independence as well. They didn't want to be part of the Soviet Union. They didn't want to be linked with Russia. But you see, with the British Empire, it's been different. You've got countries like Canada and Australia, and indeed India and Nigeria, and they're all still part of the British Commonwealth. And of course, Australia and Canada still accept the king as their head of state. So we didn't have this move to, separate ourselves from Britain. We don't want to have any links with Britain anymore. And that doesn't work on their agenda because, it doesn't paint the impression that the British Empire was the worst thing to ever happen in the world if there's lots of countries that still want to be linked with Britain.
How true, exactly. We move on, Sid. We've got to get out of the sports mode and we've got to go to an area of contention. And it's working from home. It's come back again because of the Bank of England. About 1,000, bit more staff, Bank of England, have spent 13,000 days working from abroad. And the Bank of England have enabled this by buying them thousands of computers, 10,700 if you want me to be exact. And they get them every 20 months for some unknown reason, but that they get them. And they work abroad for an average of 12 days overseas last year of all the staff. Even Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg has said it's a bit extravagant. I thought it was the Bank of England, not the Bank of Timbuktu. Encapsulates it. Now, in addition to this, they are only working 2 days a week at the office. 3 days a week are spent at home, in addition to the foreign soirees. So it's a bit of a nonsense, isn't it? I mean, I feel very strongly about this. And we feel, both of us, very strongly from reverse decisions, because I'm always in touch with bureaucracy in England and bureaucracy in Spain. And it does not work, Sid. I cannot get answers because the baby's crying in the background. Oh, I've got to refer this to my line manager. Nothing gets done. Now, I've got a solution. See if you like it. Make everybody that wants to work from home, and it is attractive for some people, and dare I say, it does work for some people, but not many, because what you're actually doing is actually having a self-employed situation. Now, a lot of self-employed people work from home, and if they don't work, they don't get paid. So they work jolly well and hard from home. I would make the civil servants who work from home outsourced. In other words, they're checked every week and they have to reach targets and they're self-employed. Is that a solution?
Well, there's nothing wrong with having targets and a set amount of work that has to be achieved. I think that's absolutely spot on, but they don't have to be self-employed to have targets. My wife, by the way, is working from home now in the conservatory, which is too bright for this for this program. Her employer basically says to her, "You've got so many visits to do." She works as a food safety advisor. You've got so many visits to do to premises. You have to do the premises. You have to write up all the reports and make arrangements. Provided you do the visits, you do your job. We don't really care where you work from. And it just so happens when she first started, she was going into the office and to meet with her manager, but then she found that none of the other staff go to the office. They all work from home and from home go to and visit the premises. So that's what she now does. And she does the job. Now, absolutely, you're right. There should be targets. There should be a set amount of work that everybody has to do. It doesn't matter if they're working for the civil service or whoever they're working for. I don't think, by the way, that it's acceptable. It's not acceptable for me, for the Bank of England to be allowing their employees to work from all over the world. I mean, I presume that one of the reasons is that, doing that, they can maybe employ some specialist who is based in California, who is, who's got skills which nobody in Britain has got. I mean, I find that hard to believe, but I presume that's the reason. And therefore, they can employ this person because they're actually based in California and continue to be based in California while working for the Bank of England. But to me, it's far-fetched the idea that there's only somebody in California that can fulfill this particular role for the Bank of England. So I don't believe it, frankly. I believe it's quite possible to find people based in the UK to fill all the roles in the Bank of England.
Well, the one thing that keeps coming back to me about all this is the one word of inefficiency, whether it be small boat people, whether it be hospitals, whatever it be that the civil servants are in charge of, it's the gross inefficiency. And you've mentioned and I've mentioned targets, Sid, but when they're working 4.5 days a week, and a lot of them are, they're getting mega holidays and mega pensions. It's easy to slide into the neutral mode and say, oh, well, I get increments every year, and the longer I'm here, nearer my pension. And it's easy to get sucked into the gunge, isn't it?
Well, maybe, but there has to be effective management, and there should be regular appraisals. So, people will still have to meet with their manager and have appraisals and report on what work they've done and so on and so forth. And if the work, and with these days we've got a fairly efficient complaint system as well. So if people aren't doing the job properly, there's likely to be complaints, and on that basis people can be dismissed because of they're not doing the job properly and they've received complaints. So that there have to be checks and balances. You can't just leave somebody to work from home and then not talk to them for a year or something. I mean, so it's also down to effective management.
We're moving on again to the release of prisoners. Obviously, PC Harper tragedy has highlighted this. And indeed, the headlines today, it's calculated that there'll be 90,000 extra crimes committed over the years because of early release, based on the figures, of course, of how many people recommit crimes when they're released. And it's pretty accurate. They deny it, the officials, but I think it's absolutely accurate. It's a big issue, this, bigger than maybe it first seems. And I've got to say, Zia Youssef from Reform made a good fist of things this morning on GB News. It was refreshing to see a politician answer a question and not zip round the question or answer a question 3 weeks old and get out of the nub of the argument by some stealth means, whatever they can. This is the art of many politicians, regretfully. But he answered things yes and no. What are you going to do as a party? Well, the first thing we're going to do is not get these people released. But what are you going to do with them? Number one, lands that the MOD own. There's tons of them, hectare acres of them throughout Britain. You could easily put Nightingale, inverted commas, type prisons there very quickly. Well, what are you going to do with the rest? Well, we're going to ship them out to various countries that we can get agreements through. What country? San Salvador. We can get you in a prison cell in San Salvador. That'll put a lot of people off coming over on their rubber dinghies. If you're illegal, that's where you're going to go. Criminals, if you commit an offence, that's where you're going to go. Now that is spot on, Sid.
I don't think it would be legal, frankly. I mean, I agree with the Rwanda scheme, where illegal immigrants were going to be processed in Rwanda who've got no attachment to this country, who are sent there to be considered, and that would certainly put an awful lot of people off from coming, and was already putting people off from coming, frankly, before before the scheme was in full operation. But you can't put somebody in prison in San Salvador who is British, because under the law they have a right to be able to receive visits, prison visits from the relatives. And if somebody's got relatives of any sort really in the UK, they can't be sent to prison in San Salvador because the relatives can't visit them there. So they would just claim their rights to receive visits, and the scheme would be illegal. That's frankly not the right path to go down. As I've said before, the right path to go down is to support people properly when they come out of prison to reduce reoffending, which does happen.
Well, Labour have just spent £700 million, they say, on doing that. We've not had a chance to see, because of the timescale, whether it's resulted in anything.
Okay, well, that's interesting. But you see, if that's what's happening, it's working, all well and good. But you see, probation is not equipped. If all they're doing is putting 700 million more money into probation, because probation say they can't cope, and that's not the answer. Because you see, probation are only there as big stick people. You have not complied with the terms of your release, we're sending you back to prison. That's what probation do. And you've got to report. If you don't report, to us as required, then you'll go back to prison. And you say to probation, I need somewhere to live, I've got nowhere to live. That's not our job. Our job isn't to provide. So all they do is they're big stick people. They punish people for not obeying the rules. And probation is saying they haven't got enough people to punish the people that come early out of prison, to make sure that they obey the rules. That's what probation is saying. That doesn't solve the problems. The problems are solved by giving people that come out of prison help and support and properly somewhere to live. That's how you solve the problems. And that is what is being done by some charities like Saltbox in Stoke and Message Trust in Manchester, and Message Trust also operate, I believe, in Romford and other areas. And they have reduced reoffending down to 10% from a national average of 40%. That's what you need to do, giving these people proper help and support. And as far as I know, the Labour Party aren't doing that. Just putting more money into probation is not the answer.
No, I would agree with you. And one thing that we've got to really mention at this stage, and that you hinted at it then, that's against the law. And lots of people are now saying, Sid, well, change the law. It needs changing. So many, it's not just ECHR, there are many other bad laws. And if you're an illegal immigrant, if you're a criminal, as an example, if you have committed, and these are bad crimes that are being let out of prison, then you do go to San Salvador. And I'm sorry, your family won't be able to visit you if we change the law. We're too soft in this country.
Well, it may be possible for specific offences, like, for instance, life imprisonment, terrorist offences, whatever. I mean, if somebody has committed a terrorist offence, Michael Adebolaja, Michael Adebowale, for instance, who killed Lee Rigby, and they're now in Belmarsh prison and have been there so far, I think, for about 12 years. And they've been basically told that they'll never be released. Now, if you committed those sort of terrorist offences and murdered somebody, then I think it's perfectly acceptable to say, I'm sorry, but we're not giving you any rights to prison visits. What you've done is warrants an all life. We're sending you to prison in San Salvador. I think that would be perfectly acceptable. But it would only be acceptable in those exceptional circumstances. I mean, for instance, if somebody committed burglary or, something like that, you couldn't possibly send somebody who committed burglary to San Salvador. It'd be completely unacceptable. Sexual offences might well be acceptable in certain circumstances. I mean, if somebody raped, and particularly if they were paedophile and raped a child or something, then that may well be acceptable to send that person to San Salvador. But it would have to be done on an offence basis, and it'd have to be ordered by the court. It couldn't just be something that was decided by the government.
Thanks, Sid. Time's gone. Isn't it refreshing that on a programme like this is blowing of trumpets, of course, we can agree to disagree and talk things through, because on many programmes you cannot express your opinion, but at least on this channel we can, even about football, etc. We'll see you very shortly.